Oh, I forgot to buy it, Irene says and bursts out laughing with amusement. Alan laughed along with her. It was as if we were watching a comedian's comedy act. But this was no comedy. Irene probably did not prepare my airline ticket on purpose. I could tell from her daily attitude. She thinks of me, her mother-in-law, as a pain in the ass. So I guess they don't want to take me on a family vacation. The morning of the day of the trip. It is during peak travel periods, and it is difficult to get airline tickets now. So, with that excuse, I was house-sitting. Well, it can't be helped. If Irene was going to do that, I would back out. But I wondered what effect this shallow and mean-spiritedness would have later on. Irene and her family will probably regret it, but that is also what she did. As an adult, she should take responsibility. My name is Lily, and I am 52 years old. My husband passed away 2 years ago, and I live with my son and his wife. My son Alan is a hard worker and graduated from a prestigious university and went to work for a major company. He married Irene, whom he met there, and they have one son, Noah. His life was as happy as could be pictured. However, my son's life plan did not include me. Irene, my daughter-in-law, blatantly treated me as an obstacle, and Alan was at Irene's beck and call. You need to work, too, mother-in-law. Irene said that with her arms folded as soon as she came into the room. Can't you at least earn your own living expenses to support your family? But with Alan's income, I don't have to work. Alan was only 29 years old, but he was sure to rise in the company. His income is also stable. Irene, however, was determined to reject my insistence. Don't you think it's disgraceful that you have to depend on your son's income for food, clothing, and shelter? Don't talk to me like that. It's just a fact. Irene says coldly. We barely make ends meet just to keep our son, Noah, in school. It sounded like a reasonable thing to say. But I knew. I knew that Irene was buying a lot of brand name bags and cosmetics, and that this was putting a strain on the family budget. I get it. Realizing that there's no point in saying anything, I contacted an old acquaintance later that day. To get hired back as a part-timer by the same company where I had worked when I was younger. When I returned to work, Irene's selfishness accelerated. Taking advantage of the time that Alan and I were working, she started to hang out with her friends. Alan, can I talk to you for a second? Yes, Mom. Once, I asked Alan for advice. Irene gradually came home later and tended to forget to do her chores. Even in the evening, the laundry was still hanging out to dry, or dinner was not ready. As you can imagine, there was a part of me that could not follow through. Can you please tell Irene from your own mouth? Can't you at least tell Irene to do her chores? It's probably useless if I tell her. I understand. Alan nodded at that moment, but he didn't seem to have actually said anything. Or, Irene had talked him out of it. Either way, Irene's behavior did not improve. Poor Noah. I'm hungry. Hold on, I'll make you something to eat. Noah came home from school and was unable to eat supper, let alone a snack. I am also out of the office until the very last minute. Even if I start cooking dinner as soon as I get home, it will inevitably be late. Grandma, I want croquettes. Okay, we'll have croquettes tonight. Yes. Still, Noah never blamed anyone. He never complained that dinner was late, and he would eat my cooking. Grandma's food is delicious. I'm glad. I pat Noah's head as he smiles and chews on his croquette, and I am relieved. Noah's face resembles his father's and reminds me of Alan's as a child. I remember Alan used to love my croquettes. With these thoughts in mind, I wait for them to return home. I'm home. A voice came from the doorway. Irene walked into the living room. She was carrying a paper bag with a brand logo in both hands. Welcome home, Irene. Alan, who had come home from work earlier, called out to her in a carefree familiar. Alan seemed rather proud of the fact that his wife was spending money with his earnings. He felt a sense of fulfillment as a man, that he was allowing his wife to live without any inconvenience. I feel it in his profile and sigh. I wonder what Irene and Alan think of Noah. Both of you. After dinner, Noah returned to his room. I opened my mouth at that time. What is it? Every day, when Noah comes home from school, he feels lonely. You, as his parents, must greet him properly. That's what I'm trying to say. Irene said as she looked at the bag she had just bought. The tone of her voice was as if she was adding. Noah's teacher said, with Noah's current academic ability, he won't be able to get into a good junior high school. That's why I'm going to increase his cram school hours. If you force him to do that, Noah will collapse. I said, like a scream. Tell him, too, Alan, that I don't want him to push himself any harder than he has to. Irene is in charge of Noah's education. Alan's eyes were glued to the TV program. If that's what Irene wants, then that's what I want, too. Alan. What a surprise. Alan has always been a child who lacked initiative. When he was a student, that was treated as a strong point. He was a child who listened to his teachers and parents. But now he is at Irene's mercy. Even Alan is his parent. You're lily-oying. We, his parents, are fine with it. Will you shut up, Mom? Yes, that's right. Alan and Irene both dismissed my words. Oh no. Just as I was about to say something more, I heard footsteps. Noah had returned. Noah. Don't worry, Grandma. I'll study hard. Good boy, Noah. Irene smiled at Noah with satisfaction. Noah nodded at his mother. As she had declared, Noah started attending cram school. Naturally, it is an unreasonable schedule. Soon Noah becomes ill. When I saw Noah appear in the living room in the morning with a red face, I knew he was no good. He looked like he had a fever. Noah, you should take the rest of the day off from school. Don't decide on your own. Irene opened her mouth in frustration, but I didn't back down. He has a fever and needs to rest. So don't tell me what to do with my son. The hysterical voice broke. Alan came in with a cheerful voice and said something like this. I got paid leave. I'm off today. At this rate, I'm going on a family vacation this weekend. Really? Irene, who had been in a foul mood, instantly smiled. The content of her argument had also changed. If that's the case, we need to bring down the fever as soon as possible. I'll give him the rest of the day off from school, so Mom, please take Noah to the hospital. What? Just a few moments ago, she was telling me to send him to school. Now she wants me to keep him out of school and take him to the hospital. Puzzled, I prepare to take Noah to the hospital. Whatever the reason, it's a good thing Noah is out of school. I could take him to the hospital. I'm sorry, Grandma. It's okay. We'll go to the hospital together, okay? Yes. Noah nodded once, then muttered to himself. I don't like bitter medicine. Well, you can tell the doctor and get some medicine that won't be bitter. Really? Finally, he showed me a childish expression. Noah has a twinkle in his eye. Do you have any sweet medicine? I'm sure there is. I'll ask the doctor. Yes. I pulled away from Noah, who smiled innocently, and got into the car Alan was driving. When we arrived at the hospital parking lot, Alan said, I'm not going into the hospital. I'm not going into the hospital because I don't want to catch a cold too. Such a heartless. I protested, but Alan would have none of it. I had no choice but to take Noah with me to the reception desk. The hospital was reasonably crowded. Everyone looked sick in some way, and it was heartbreaking to watch. That's when it happened. Ugh. Are you okay? The old man sitting next to me and waiting his turn suddenly started suffering, holding his head. I panicked, but still managed to get a nurse. Over here. A man has collapsed and he's in a lot of pain. Oh my God. The nurse who responded to me also looked pale. I could tell that he was in a dangerous situation. Is that old man going to be okay? He'll be fine. The doctor will take care of him. Taking Noah's hand, who looked anxious, I said to him as if to remind him. Inwardly, I had a feeling that I did not know what would happen. Would the old man survive? The other patients were also looking at the old man who was being carried away. After a while, a man in a white coat arrived. I was so upset that it took me a moment to realize that it was a doctor. Nice work. Huh? When I was dubious, the doctor explained the situation again. That patient wouldn't have made it if it hadn't been taken care of, and he would have made it if Lily hadn't called the nurse. Oh, no. I didn't think I deserved any thanks. It was only natural to help someone in need. And yet, doctors and patients alike looked at me as if I was a hero or something. Please don't do that. I was embarrassed and turned my head down. Noah looked into my face and said happily. You're a great grandma. I don't know. Yes, you are. You're a fine woman. The patients applaud, as if they agree with the doctor's words. I felt more and more uncomfortable. But I was glad that the old man had survived. Alan nodded his head as we returned to the car after Noah's examination. Did something happen at the hospital? There was a lot of noise just now. Grandma helped an old man in trouble. Noah says, leaning forward happily. Alan widens his eyes in disbelief. My mother? It's not that big of a deal. Let's just get out of here. Yes. The car starts off. All the way to the house, Noah was singing my praises. Alan was skeptical, but for me, a reaction like Alan's was just fine. By the time we arrived home, Noah was tired and had fallen asleep. I picked him up and carried him to his room. As I tucked him into bed, Noah giggled. Grandma, you're so good. Noah. Really, I didn't do much. If I hadn't gone to call the nurse, someone else would have done it. If I did, someone else would have been the hero of the hospital. Does she have a cold? When I left the room, Irene was standing in the hallway. When Irene asked, I replied, yes, you are right. The doctor said that he may be tired. Studying is important, but he is still a child and he is not strong enough yet. I can't push him too hard. He reacted as if it was someone else's problem. Well, I'll give him the rest of the week off from school. It's a family vacation, and Noah needs to get better. I agree. Whatever the reason, I consider it fortunate that Noah was able to take the day off from school. It was that night. Excuse me, are you sure this is the right house for Lily? Yes. I thought it was a delivery service or something, but when I answered the door, I found a strange man standing there. I was so nervous that I wondered what was going on. The man begins to tell me something unexpected. After the man left, I returned to the living room. Who was that? Alan asks while playing video games. I chuckled. Nothing. Anyway, where are we going on our next trip? I haven't decided yet. I was relieved to hear the expected answer. Let's go to Nice. What are you talking about out of the blue, Mom? I got an invitation ticket to a resort hotel in Nice from an acquaintance. Let's all go together. I say, feeling proud. Alan and Irene look at each other. I show them the actual invitation ticket. Here it is. Great. This hotel was featured on TV before. Irene said, her cheeks blushing with excitement. Alan stares at me with a furrowed brow. Mom, who gave you this? What you got, that's what you got. Irene, with a ho-hum look on her face, looked at me as she rubbed her hands. Thank you, mother-in-law. I'm glad you're pleased. I was foolish to laugh when I answered that. On the morning of the day we were to leave for our trip. Oh, I forgot to buy it. With a nasty smile, Irene says. I forgot my mother-in-law's airline ticket. If I made the arrangements now, I probably wouldn't make it in time, so she'll have to stay home. That's terrible. Even Alan is laughing when he says that. He reacts as if he were watching a comedy on a TV screen. But this is no comedy. It actually happened to me. Yes. I perceived her expression. She must have deliberately not prepared a plane ticket for me. In the midst of all this, Noah begrudgingly said. Well, I'm not going with you. Oh, no. Are you still sick? No, Mom. It's just sad that you have to stay at home alone, Grandma. They were kind words. I hugged Noah and said. It's okay. Don't worry about me, just go and have fun. No. It is rare that Noah, who is so honest, goes so far out of his way. Crossing her arms, Irene said. I don't have a choice. Then let's just go with Alan and me. Just the two of us? That's nice. In that way, Irene and Alan left for the airport. I was left at home, preparing for lunch with Noah. Irene. I knew she hated me. But I never thought she would do such a terrible thing. I don't have a choice. I predict what is going to happen. Because of that invitation ticket. Not available when she is not present. Huh? Apparently, there was such conversation between Irene and the manager when they arrived at the hotel. Alan, who seemed to be in distress, called me and told me the story. The old man you saved was the president of the company that owns this hotel. Yes, that's what I hear. I nodded at the caller. The man who came to visit me explained the circumstances to me as well. Strictly speaking, the old man was the former president of the company. He had just handed over the entire company to his son and was enjoying a comfortable life in the countryside. He happened to have a health problem and met me at the hospital. That invitation was a thank you from the president. So I knew you probably wouldn't be able to use it without me. You're mean. Alan said as if he was shocked, but I have my reasons, too. Alan, if you had stuck up for me right then and there, I would have told you the truth. Oh, it's my fault? Alan's voice grew louder, as if he were surprised. Alan really didn't understand his own heartlessness. It was sad, even for my own son. Mother-in-law. The voice of an angry Irene interrupts. Though the horrendous screeching made my ears hurt. What are you going to do? I can't stay at the hotel, and you've ruined my plans. If you had taken me on the trip, we wouldn't be in such trouble, would we? Because of their Lilius, both of them had to be locked out of the hotel. They've called all the other hotels, and none of them will let me stay. Well, I guess you'll just have to come home. Are you kidding me? Irene's voice is sad and sorrowful, as if she were the victim of the crime. I can't believe I paid all that money to come to Nice and just go home. I don't recommend staying in the wild. If you think so, please help us. Irene was screaming like a child. Do something. I can't believe the first Nice in my life is such a bad memory. Oh, don't ask me. It seems that she has given up on the unreliable Alan. Irene's voice faded away with the sound of footsteps. Anyone? Is there anyone who understands English? Hey, stop it, it's embarrassing. Mom, I'm hanging up the phone. Yes. I would rather appreciate it if he hung up. I am in the US and I just can't do it. And there is no reason for me to be nice to Irene now. I ended the call with a sigh. A few moments later, I received a call from Alan. I wondered if I should answer the call or not. But even though they were hopeless idiots, they were my son and daughter-in-law. I decided to at least listen to what they had to say, so I picked up the phone. What happened? I had my wallet stolen. What? I never thought such a thing would really happen. I was inwardly thrilled. Alan said in a depressed voice. I could feel Irene crying beside him. The second I took my eyes off the bag, they took it. Except for my phone, which I was holding in my hand, everything including my wallet. Please come for us, mother-in-law. I hear her tearful voice. I said, I can't. Why? It's hard to get a plane ticket now. You said so. Irene moans into the phone. But if you wait a few days from now on, you can get a plane ticket, right? Wait a minute. Irene shouts angrily at Alan's suggestion. We don't have any money. We'll have to wait for your mother-in-law without eating or drinking. Don't take so long to wait for her for days. I don't have a choice. I could feel the air between them going bad. What else is there to do but wait? Don't be so overbearing. Irene was in a bad mood with Alan for a while, but gradually her voice became weak and returned to her original tearful voice. Please help me. I'm overseas, I don't speak their language, and I don't know what to do. You're an adult. I say in disgust. Think and act for yourselves. I'm sorry I was mean to you. So help me, please help me. Even if you say so. Thinking calmly, the best thing to do would be to rely on the local police. But the panicked Irene can't seem to come up with that idea. Alan says evasively on behalf of Irene, who has finally started to cry. I guess you don't care what happens to us, do you, Mom? You went on that trip with just the two of us because you thought you could take responsibility, didn't you? What do you want me to do? At last, even Alan lost his cool. he said in an angry voice. How am I supposed to take responsibility? There's nothing more I can do. I have nothing to say or teach you while you take your frustration out on me like that. With that said, I tried to hang up the call. Immediately after, Irene's voice jumps into the phone. What do you want me to do? I'll say sorry from the bottom of my heart and do whatever you want when I get back, so just tell me. I'll let you cool down a little more. That's right. If only the two of them could calm down, they would be able to figure out what to do on their own. I choose to end the call and turn my attention to the table. On the table, at Noah's request, is a pot of curry and rice. It had gotten a little cold, so I reheated it and called Noah over. Noah, who was doing homework in his room, looked happy. I love your curry, Grandma. Thank you. I smile suddenly with his carefree smile. If only Irene had not done anything unnecessary and the whole family had arrived in nice. That way Noah could have had a better meal. I pity him because of his mother. In the end, Irene and Alan turned to the local police. They returned with a seat on the plane on the condition that they would pay for their airline tickets when they arrived home. At first glance, Irene was exhausted. Her makeup was smudged from crying and she looked terrible. When she saw my face, she fell to her knees. He bows his head deeply and grunts. I'm sorry. Mom, I'm sorry. Unlike Irene, Alan also apologized, although he did not get down on his knees. She's decided she's not going to be mean to you anymore. Is that true? Yes. From now on, I'll do as you say. Irene was about to start crying again, probably because this incident had been so hard on her. If it were. I pat Wisteria Noah's head as he gazes sadly at his parents. I will determine Noah's schedule for tutoring and lessons from now on. What? Irene looked shocked, but I was unwavering. I don't know what would happen to Noah if it were left to you. But Noah is my son. If you are his mother, be a mother. I said harshly. Irene's shoulders shook with fright. Seeing this, I continue with my words. No more buying brand name bags and staying out late with friends. You will be a normal housewife and learn to take care of the house. Having said that much, I cross my arms. This is honestly not a word I want to say. If you can't do that, I'm going to have to ask you to leave my house. Mother-in-law. Hey, Mom, I don't think that's a good idea. The two sent the expected response. But this was necessary for Noah's sake. I spent some time at home with Noah until they returned. Then I understood. Alan, you can't take care of Noah, can you? If that's the case, at least she has to be a good mother. If Irene can't do it, then you need to find another wife to take care of Noah. I'll get my act together. Irene says while blowing her nose with a tissue. She looks like a scalded elementary school student. I'll take care of it. So please don't divorce me. Please. Okay. If she say that much, I think. She was crying and apologizing so much, it must have been good medicine for her. I was naive to think so. I'm home. Irene. Within a month, Irene was playing around, breaking curfew. I thought you were sorry. I did. That's why I'm coming home earlier and doing less shopping. She laughed as she said this, with a look of innocence. There was nothing I could do about it. I decided to have Alan prepare the divorce papers. I don't like it. As a matter of course, Alan objected to it. But I had expected that much, too. Can't you see this?
Nah.
What the hell? Alan's face scrunched up as he peered at the photos laid out on the table. It was a picture of Irene having an affair. It was a woman's intuition, or whatever you want to call it. I had a hunch that Irene was cheating on her husband. So I secretly hired a detective. This photo was sent to me with the report. Do you still want to be with Irene? That's... Alan was at a loss for words. Irene is playing around with several men. Judging from their clothes, they might be a host or something. He was doing this when I wasn't looking. Alan's shoulders trembled as he muttered. So what are you going to do? Will you divorce Irene? When I asked him that, Alan slowly turned his head toward me. There is anger in his eyes. I'm leaving her, Mom. Yes. Then I guess we'll be dismissed. Dismissed? It was Alan, twisting his head dubiously. I nodded and said, I'm leaving this house too. What? Alan sounds a little crazy. But I have been thinking about it for a long time. I wonder if you guys will ever be independent because I'm here. So I thought we should live separately from now on. Oh, no, Mother, you can't do that. Alan hurriedly clutched at me. Alan is much taller than me, but his head is lower than mine due to his kneeling position on the floor. I can't do the housework, and neither can Noah. I'll take Noah. What? Again Alan looked surprised. I guess he really wasn't interested in what I was doing or thinking. I had been looking for an apartment to move into for some time. But Alan was completely oblivious. You're my mother. A mother abandons her son. But first, you're Noah's father, right? Have you ever done anything even remotely like a father? Well, that's... If you want me to be motherly, Alan should change his behavior as Noah's father. You and Irene are both unfit parents. Mom, wait. Please reconsider. I'll get it together too. I'll remarry to a decent wife, and we'll be a family again. Alan suggests a self-serving proposal to the end. Anyway, I'll divorce Irene. We'll talk afterwards. No, you can't. I've already decided. Mom. I turn away from the pleading voice. I have already decided where I am going to move. The reason we chose a place relatively close to here was not for Alan and Irene. It was just to choose a distance that would not require Noah to change schools. When Irene came home late that day, as usual, Alan confronted her with the divorce papers, and she turned pale. You're kidding, right? You're the one who's dating a joke number of guys. Alan is furious, but from my point of view, both are childish statements. I can no longer take responsibility for both of them. So I say
Bye
to both of them. Even if I'm told to divorce, I don't have any savings. I don't know how I'm going to make a living. I can't even do my own housework. I left them, hearing their sad voices. Later, far from remarriage, Alan was fired from his job because of his dirty appearance. I don't know how to use a washing machine. I don't even know how to iron. I guess he couldn't even wash his clothes as well. Wearing a wrinkled and stained suit is certainly not a good look. It would have been a negative image for the company. On the other hand, it turned out that Irene had been borrowing money from her friends and playing around. Since she was also relying on Alan's income to repay the debt, she quickly found herself in financial difficulties. Please wait a little longer. I'll pay you back somehow. I heard it on the street that Irene bows her head here and there, but I didn't think anything of it anymore. But Noah just said this in disgust. I'm so disappointed that they too have been harassing people other than my grandmother. I'm so disappointed. They'll get it together. I doubt that. Noah seemed anxious, even as a child. After that, Noah began to study hard on his own initiative. I want to be a hero like my grandma. You're overestimating me. I blushed and slumped down. It's time to forget about that one. By the way, the president of the company, who knew what happened, sent me an invitation to the hotel again. Noah, however, was not pleased to learn this. I don't want to go. Why not? Because you can eat a lot of delicious food when you go there. My grandmother's cooking is the best in the world. Noah said with straight eyes. I couldn't help but burst into tears. Noah. I'm going to study hard and become a proper adult. I want to make my grandmother happy. It was an admirable resolution, not unlike that of an elementary school student. But I thought, to become a respectable person, you need to take detours, don't you? Really? Yes, it does. If you only study, you won't develop your mind. If you play all the time, you'll end up like your mother, but you can't just study. When I reminded him of this, Noah's lips twitched. It's hard. Let's learn little by little. The road to that goal has just begun.